Mr. Belcher here again with another screencast. Our topic today is the key events of the Civil War. We had talked in the last screencast of all of the events that led us to the Civil War. Now we're talking about 1861 through 1865. And our learning outcomes. What are the advantages and disadvantages of the North and the South? Number 2, why was it important for the North to gain control of the Mississippi River? And number 3, what impact did the Emancipation Proclamation and the Gettysburg Address have on the outcome of the war? Now, the North versus the South, it's pretty simple. The North had all of the advantages. Almost all of the major mines were in the North. Population is heavily favoring the North. Bank deposits, they have much more money. Factories, of course, we have that plantation system in the South. Look at cotton production, however, 99.9% in favor of the South. But every other food crop favoring 3/4 almost for the North. Horses, donkeys, and mules, the North is at an advantage. So if you look at this, you would think that the North would be able to pull these southern states back in the Union pretty quickly. Really, the northern advantages are pretty immense. The railroad lines, just take a look at that. All of the little red there, that's all the northern railroads. And then the southern railroads are there kind of in the green. There is vastly more railroads in the North than the South. And take a look at this also with the resources, workers, factories, again, very similar to the last figure that you just saw. Now the Union's plan to bring the southern states back in. It's known as the Anaconda Plan. It was created by a guy named Winfield Scott. There is a three-headed system to this. Blockade the southern ports, guard the Mississippi River, and capture the Confederate capital at Richmond. And the whole reason to guard the Mississippi River is it was a major artery for southern states to get supplies and troops. Also, blockading the ports. At this point, the Southerners are still trying to rely on European powers for a lot of things. So if they can stop any sort of European powers from helping them, they're going to be in a much better position. And here you go, take a look at this. You can kind of see the anaconda snake there wrapping all the way around the southern states and really blocking off everything from the outside perspective from the South. And the politics of war. Really, all those compromises that we talked about before are just simply band-aids. There's really nothing that is going to get anything really accomplished other than just appeasing the other sides for a short time. We are going to have a growing abolitionist movement from 1831 to 1860. William Lloyd Garrison is going to be one of the most famous of these abolitionists. He's going to create this newspaper magazine called The Liberator, which is going to be a anti-slavery paper, and he is going to kind of take to the masses with this. Another guy is Frederick Douglass. You guys saw a picture of him in the last screencast. He is one of the most famous abolitionists with William Lloyd Garrison. The North also has the advantages in total states, 26 Union states to 11 Confederate states. The South is absolutely going to be fighting a defensive war. It is the Union, or the North, that is trying to pull the Southerners back to the United States. There's really no reason for them to fight an offensive war. And the South is really at this point thinking they're going to get a lot of help from Britain, because Britain was almost their number one customer buying their cotton. However, Britain had kind of seen this coming, so from that, they have this huge store of cotton, and they really just don't need to support the Southerners like they think they were going to get supported. And ultimately, they were looking for that legitimacy from Britain that they're just never going to get. Now, the conditions of war. Both sides really are learning as they go. The last real war that we fought was that war with Mexico, and it wasn't really a war. I mean, go back to 1812 maybe was the last major conflict of fighting. So it's been a long time since we've had any sort of major conflict and need to fight like this. The uniforms itself are very poorly made. They are very different depending on what regiment that you're in. Also, that makes it really hard to tell who is a friend and who is an enemy, and it was even worse in the South. There is a very unhealthy diet. They are not eating nearly the types of foods that they should, and there's trash everywhere. They really have no organization in these camps. They are they're eating way too closely to their bathrooms, and it's really going to cause a lot of problems for them. There's going to be body lice, fleas, and dysentery that are going to run rampant there with the North and also the South. And strangely enough, the most feared person on either side, Union or Confederate, was the doctors. These people, you did not want to see a doctor. The likelihood of you dying was so much higher if you saw a doctor. This is pre all the medical sterilization procedures that we have in effect today. At this point, they would tie a belt around your arm or your leg, and they would take a hacksaw and they would hack your leg or your arm off, and that would be it. And they wouldn't clean it in between amputations. So there was a heavy spread of disease from these doctors itself. And again, like I said, it was about 10 times worse in the South than it was in the North. So you can just imagine the types of conditions that they are facing in the South. Also, one last thing with the uniforms. The shoes that they had, some of them only lasted for a day. So a lot of these soldiers on both sides are going basically barefoot for almost the entire war. This is going to play a little bit of a role later when we talk about Gettysburg. So then one of the other major events with the Civil War is the Emancipation Proclamation. It is issued on New Year's Day in 1863. It's supposed to free the slaves, but really it doesn't free any slaves at all. What Lincoln is going to do with this is he's been trying to figure out a way to stay within the Constitution that can assert his power as executive. So within his constitutional power as executive, he is allowed to seize enemy property in times of war. And this also means slaves. So what it's going to do is basically, he's within this proclamation is any slaves behind enemy lines could be freed or were freed. And really what this is going to do is give a moral purpose to the Civil War. This is kind of going to remake the war. And really, this is one of the few times that Abraham Lincoln is going to be praised as president. We think of him as this great president, one of the best presidents that we've ever had, but he really doesn't even become famous until after he's murdered. So keep that in mind as well. Now, the Gettysburg Address. Gettysburg itself is a horrendous battle. It is just a disaster and life lost. 90,000 Union troops versus 75,000 Confederate. Over 3 days, we have over 50,000 people killed or wounded. It is an absolute incredible battle. The Confederates here are going to lose 3/4 of their army, and really the whole reason why this battle is going to happen is the Confederates are going up into Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, looking for shoes. There's an abandoned shoe factory there, and their hopes is they can get these shoes and they can equip themselves properly. Unfortunately, George Meade is leading the Union Army at Gettysburg and is really going to just destroy the Confederates. This is really the last time that the Southerners are ever going to try to invade the North. Also at this point, Robert E. Lee's reputation as this bulletproof general is really going to be shaken at this point. And this is going to show that the Union can in fact beat Robert E. Lee. The big outcome from the Gettysburg Address is that once Lincoln kind of sees this loss of life, he feels that he's compelled to give this speech. And it's really going to help to unify the country. We're going to go from America was to kind of we are, or America is this. And it's going to start to kind of really change the tide of the war itself. Now, 1864, we're kind of wrapping down to the end of the Civil War here. And you would think with all those advantages that the North had that we saw in the beginning, that it would be very easy for them to win. But no, this is over 3 years later. William Sherman, who was a little bit crazy, take a look at his picture, you can kind of see it in his face, he's going to take the lead of 60,000 troops with basically no supplies, and he's going to tell his superiors that we're going to live off the fat of the land. And what this plan, his march is going to do is institute this scorched earth total war policy. And what he really wants to do is show how bad that war can be. And it's not, his targets are not military. His targets are civilian. So it's houses, it's livestock, it's railroads, it's anything that they come in contact with. That's what they're looking to destroy. Burning down homes, stealing things, pillaging, and killing of livestock was a big thing too. The goal was, if he can exact total war and destroy everything, it's going to break the will of the South. And being that Sherman is a little bit crazy, he tells all of those troops that if you disobey, you'll be shot on the spot. And these guys that he has with him are not the altar boys of the Union Army. These are the worst of the worst guys that are with him. You can kind of see his march here. He's going to go down from Atlanta all the way to Savannah, march to the sea, and then up through South Carolina and all the way up to North Carolina. So he's going to be just breaking the will of the South all throughout this march. Could you imagine seeing Sherman and 60,000 troops coming into these southern towns and just absolutely destroying them? Now, the end of the war itself, 1865, Robert E. Lee and Ulysses S. Grant are going to meet at the Appomattox Courthouse. The Union had taken the Confederate capital of Richmond at this point, and Lee is going to arrange that surrender. What this is going to do with the Appomattox surrender is it's going to show the compassion, kind of at Lincoln's discretion, of the Union. They're going to allow, rather than kind of destroy the Southerners at this point, really going to allow them to go home with a little bit of dignity. And ultimately, the war is going to increase the government's power and its authority, specifically the president. And it's considered the first modern war. A lot of new technology has been instituted. We have a new type of bullet called the mini ball, which was absolutely devastating if they were shot by it. You've probably seen maybe those movies that one shot ends up killing somebody. Well, this one kind of really did. What it would do is it would, if it hit any bones or anything like that, it would absolutely explode your bones and send the shrapnel throughout the rest of your body. So this was a highly, highly dangerous weapon to have at this point. And there's a picture of the Appomattox Courthouse. And let's recap this thing. I want to keep it short and sweet for you guys today. Number one, what is the advantages and disadvantages of the North and the South? Number two, why was it important for the North to gain control of the Mississippi River? And number three, what impact did the Emancipation Proclamation and the Gettysburg Address have on the outcomes of the war? So, if you have any questions, let me know. Find me in class, shoot me an email, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.